Hi, Eric. Welcome to the show.
Hey there. Yeah, thanks for having me.
So happy to see you again. So we met, I think it was last December at a public speaking event in St. Louis, and I really loved your energy. You just came in with this radiating energy, and I think you kind of already noticed that because people are naturally drawn to you, and you're super stylish, and you're also a content creator, and I understand that you do copywriting. But what really struck me was this story of transformation. So I think at this event, I was talking about my program, Make Peace with Food. And then you shared this massive transformational story where you also came from a place where you struggled with dieting for a very long time. And then just came to that place where food really became neutral emotionally, and you started to improve that relationship with food. And as a byproduct of that, transformed your body, your health. And now you're inspiring so many people around you to do so. I'm so excited to get into this today.
Hey. Thank you. Yeah, I guess I could probably start with I used to be a high school athlete. I was really good at wrestling, a two-time state medalist. And back then, whenever you've got a coach pushing you and you're young and your metabolism's working great, like it's easier to stay in shape. And then getting into my mid-20s, early 30s, I started putting on quite a bit of weight, and like I didn't really take it seriously at first. I thought, well, I'll just, lose it because I've never had weight. And then it got to a point where I'm like, holy cow, I'm like 200 pounds, and just, tried a handful of ways to try to lose the weight, and I think I was just kind of stuck in the mindset of like, no pain, no gain, and just kind of pushing through all of it, what the type of stuff I learned through wrestling. And yeah, I'll just kind of go into is like a big change for me was whenever my mom got cancer. And I know your mom also died of cancer too, right? Yeah, so yeah, that was just such a difficult time in my life. And one of the most challenging conversations I've ever been a part of was I was at she actually invited me to sit in with her counselor or psychiatrist one time. And the psychiatrist was asking like, so are you depressed? And she was talking to my mom said, well, yeah. And the woman said, so does that mean like you think you might kill yourself? And she goes, no, why would I do that? The cancer is going to kill me anyways. And so the counselor asked, well, so if you're depressed, like what are you depressed about? And she just started crying, and she said, I just feel like a terrible mom because my lifestyle choices of smoking and drinking have made it so I'm not going to be able to be around when my kids have kids of their own and have grandkids. And so she just felt absolutely terrible about that, and it was so hard to like witness that. And I know that whenever she died, I was 34, and I just like looked in the mirror and I was just like, what am I doing? I'm not in the shape that I used to be. I'm not living the life that I want to do. My business wasn't where I wanted it. And then I just kind of said, enough is enough. And I made a decision to just, I was going to fix my problems no matter what it took. And I was going to try things that were outside the box, different, ways of being than I'd ever tried before. And so I really got into Tim Ferriss's podcast, and came across a guy called Jersey Gregorick, and he really reshaped the way that I thought about health and fitness. And he talked about like what you say. It's about consistency and
Right.
showing up every day, and it's not so much you have to push yourself really hard. It's just about building up that consistency. And so whenever I started focusing on just showing up, and yeah, just like focusing on like how my body felt, or like focusing on flexibility and posture and that type of thing, like the weight just fell off me. Like it was so much easier whenever I stopped putting the pressure on myself, and I just decided like I'm just going to enjoy this journey. And all of a sudden, everything's been amazing, and I've just like started doing other things like better breathing techniques like nasal breathing, taking care of my gut, getting better sleep, and just, I mean, countless different ways of just having a whole better, healthier lifestyle. And I think something that's been really key for me with that is just like kind of making it, sticking to something until it's a habit. And
Mm,
then once it's a habit, it's actually easier to do than not do. And I like the way that you talk about consistency, because one of the ways I like to promote the way I look at health and fitness is it's like brushing your teeth.
mm,
You know, you can't just brush your teeth for 30 minutes once a month. Like, that's not going to do you any good. But if you can focus on brushing your teeth 1 minute a day for 30 days, then you build the habit that you finally, it feels gross if I don't brush my teeth. It feels gross if I don't work out, or it feels gross if I don't eat healthy. And so now it's just easy. And I want to really promote that to the world, that like when you kind of get into this way of being, like, it's actually easy. It's not a chore for me to eat
right,
healthy.
right.
And that's something that I really want to, yeah, tell people and let people know. So thank you.
So beautiful, so beautiful. So, first of all, I just want to hold space for you for that share around your mom. And I'm truly sorry. I know that pain. I know how that feels. And I also want to say that for me, it was kind of the opposite experience where my mom, she did all the right things throughout her life. She didn't smoke, she didn't drink, she didn't eat those fast food, yet she still ended up with cancer. So there's this part of us that always feels responsible, but then once we really just let that spiritual side of us sit in, things are just supposed to be the way that they're supposed to be. And perhaps one of the reasons why things happen the way that they happen was for you to get this message so that you can maybe do something a little bit different and have a different impact maybe on your health and fitness than what sort of your mom had gone through. So it's definitely not an easy thing, and I wish we always had that answer. Well, this is why it happened, but it certainly is not the case. However, the way I look at health and fitness is always around quality of life. And I
Yeah.
know we live in a society where it's really about how we look. Everything is about fixing our external appearance, whether that's through makeup or surgeries or things or dyeing our hair. Everything is really about how we look. But we oftentimes don't talk about it enough that really health and fitness or any other thing that we do in our life that we consider to be success is about how we feel. And so
Yeah.
my goal around health and fitness is for me to be independent until my last breath. Like I want to go up and down the stairs by myself. I got to watch my mom's health deteriorate over the last couple years of her life, and that's something that I didn't want to happen to me. I mean, obviously we don't have full control over what happens to us, but that was my reason. And I think the start of the why is so important because Eric,
Oh,
even
yeah.
for you, it wasn't, oh, I need to, look really good by June because I'm going on vacation with it wasn't about that. And I think that's where we get tripped up is that we start to really focus on that exterior part and that exterior physical body, which is, I think, where that pressure comes in, what you spoke about earlier, just not feeling the pressure, but instead really shifting into that space of joy where health and fitness is a part of who I am, just like brushing my teeth. And so, how can I find that consistency? I cannot find consistency if I punish myself through this. I can't
Mm.
find consistency if I hate myself through this. I can't find consistency if I don't allow myself to be curious and to experiment with the things that I enjoy. If I hate eating broccoli and I force myself to eat broccoli every day, I can't create consistency. If I hate running and it's not for me and it hurts and I have bad knees, maybe there's something else for me that would work a little bit better. And so we're in the space where we actually overestimate what we need to do in order to achieve those results. To your point, it actually is easy, right? And we underestimate what a little bit can do. And consistency is what drives results. But there has to be desire. And if there
Yeah.
is no desire, there is no consistency. And so to get into that space of consistency, we have to also understand that the consistency is flexibility. And that means
Mhm.
some days I have more energy and I can do more, and other days I have maybe less energy. And maybe today, maybe yoga feels right for me. And so if I can establish that consistency and understand that that's what drives results, then I'll also understand that consistency, whether it is choosing something that serves me or choosing something that doesn't serve me, is what drives results. And so that one piece of cake is not going to sabotage me because I have to consistently do that habit that doesn't serve me in order to get that outcome. And so we oftentimes think of it as black and white, and there has to be that place of balance. And I also like to see health and fitness as a bank account. For
Yeah, yeah.
everything that serves me, that's a deposit. And for everything that doesn't serve me, well, that's a withdrawal. And so as long as my deposits are always outweighing the withdrawals, I will see that transformation. I will 100% see that impact.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely beautiful. I mean, something that I also kind of think of is like, taking away the emotional side of quote unquote getting in shape. I think of like, we look at fat, like what is fat? Fat is just an energy storage, and so I like to think that, of it like the gas tank. So like the gas tank of like a small, like, little Toyota car is going to be a different type of gas tank than like the semi truck that needs to go across country. And so if we stop looking at like I'm too fat or I'm too skinny or whatever, like let's just look at like, does our body type allow us to do what we want to do with, peace, ease, joy, and that type of thing. And so that's something that's kind of like a personal mission for me, is like I really want to like rebrand what it means to have a dad bod. Like I think dad bods, it's kind of this glorification of, skinny legs and a gut, and it's like, no, I think dad bod should be like the type of body that like has the energy to like crawl on the floor and play with their kids and like go to soccer practice and play baseball with them. That's the type of thing that I think a dad bod should be. And so again, whether you're a football player or a marathon runner or a gymnast or whatever you are, it's like, does your body type allow you to do what you want to do? And I think that really ties back into like what you say, it's about finding your why, what motivates you. So, and because it's the why that's going to drive the how.
Right. 100%. I love that you said that so much. And oftentimes too, it's, we're so focused on the how, right? And that's
Hmm.
where sort of the issue lands, because we all have a different how as to how we should get to that particular end result. And so for every person, it looks a little bit different. And as we mentioned before, there has to be that element of joy and excitement as you're going through that process. And so if running works for one person, then that's their how. And if weightlifting and doing CrossFit maybe works for another person, then maybe that's their how. But we oftentimes lack that clarity around the what. What is it exactly that I want to accomplish?
Hmm.
Because most of us have a goal that looks a lot like, I want to get in the best shape of my life, which really is not measurable and is not really easy to achieve and to know that we've even arrived there. And then having that why that really resonates with us. And we talk often about that it should hold a particular emotion, it should move us somehow. However, if it still lacks that desire, and that desire really has to be bigger than anything else, it has to really be that I'm not doing this anymore. It is that line in the sand moment that I'm not living like this one more day and I have to make the change. And once we've gone to that place, and we just start one little thing at a time, one small habit at a time, thinking of that first step that I can do, that I can master, and then eventually be able to add on a little bit more. And again, continue to think of it as this bank account that I'm constantly depositing in. I think that's extremely important. Eric, as you're sharing, I find this super curious, because most often a lot of the guests that I would have on, let's say, the show that would talk around, changing the perspective around, let's say, the relationship with food, or the different meanings that we assign to food, to dieting, to body image, oftentimes it's women. And so
Okay.
you being a man, which is so cool, just like hearing this perspective from a man, I find it super fascinating. And then just wanting to dive into a little bit more, what was your relationship with food before you had this transformational moment? And then what is your relationship with food now?
Oh wow, yeah, that's a great question. I would say before it was always kind of like I could eat whatever I want because I was skinny, and then like whenever I started packing on the weight, then I started trying. Well, I'll eat a salad today, and then but then the next day it'd be a pizza, and I wasn't consistent, and so I think one of the big things was just to make a decision, which I this is kind of a cool little thing is to think decision means to cut off any other option. So the moment you actually say, I'm just done with this, I'm going to do a different life, I'll tell you what, everything else is easy. It falls into place and you're no longer having that mind battle of like, well, what do I do? How do I do? Once you just, I'm going to figure it out, like things just fall into place. And so I would say my relationship to food was, yeah, it was just kind of a yo-yo. It was a back and forth, eating healthy one day, not eating healthy the next day. Something that you talk about, and this is actually how I ended up losing weight, was intermittent fasting. You know, that was such a game changer to me because I was no longer thinking about it, and I was able to like you know, rearrange my eating schedule to fit my life rather than, you know, rearranging my life to fit my eating. And so I, you know, I had more energy and more clarity. And I'm, you know, you talk at length about how, you know, intermittent fasting helps. And I just feel like it's just so easy to do that compared to other types of diet. And plus your body's going to have cravings, you know, for a reason. So if you can just have like that delayed gratification, you know, that serves you not just in like health and weight, but like in all other aspects of your life. Like now I know that like, okay, I can do X, Y, and Z. I have the strength, the internal power because I've been able to, you know, handle intermittent fasting. I know now that like whenever my body sends signals, that's what it is. It's a signal, and
Mm.
I can choose to listen to it, or I can choose to say, you know, not now. I thank you for, you know, you giving me the signal, but I'm going to go ahead and follow the protocol that I've already set out for myself. And so I think that was a huge thing. And right now, I'm, you know, starting to pick up on you just, you know, eating healthier. And what I'm really focused on now is trying to understand like how my blood sugar, like how eating affects my blood sugar and insulin levels. And I eat for energy now. That's my whole goal, is like, how do I time my meals, what can I eat so that I can be as happy and productive, because I just feel like I have so much to give to the world. And a big part of me being able to give my gift to the world is I have to be able to be at a high energy level. So
I love that. I love that so much. And as you're talking, just what I get off of just what you're sharing right now is just deep love for yourself. Because it sounds
mhm.
like everything you're doing is really coming from a place of love versus a place of frustration, you know, disappointment in yourself or anger at yourself for looking or feeling or being in a certain state in your life. But instead it really seems that you're even thanking your body for those hunger signals. And just what you were sharing earlier about our stored fat, we don't think about this, but instead of hating that stored fat, which by the way our body's doing so that we survive, I mean, what a miracle that is, that if I'm
Yeah.
stuck in a desert somewhere and there is no access to food, I can still survive for 30 days. Like, that's how amazing this fat is. And on top of it, it drives hormones. And on top of it, it
Mhm.
regulates a lot of different functions and helps regulate the temperature in my body. And so once you start to understand the functions of fat and how important they are for the optimal running of this machinery that we are in all day, I mean, wow, that's maybe we can step into a space of gratitude around why we're hungry, why we have cravings. And by the way, we have cravings because we've conditioned our body to have those cravings. If
Yeah.
I snack
Yeah.
every night right before bed, I've conditioned my body to snack every night before bed. And so, coming back to intermittent fasting, it is a way to get our body metabolically adapted where we can go for periods without food, we can go for periods where we turn off that energy requirement that goes towards digestion, free it up so that we can heal the body, so that we can do other really important functions, and know that we're okay. We're okay to step away from the kitchen for a few hours or to not be around food for a few hours. Actually, I find that extremely empowering.
Yeah.
And in the past, I used to be hypoglycemic because I used to have to eat every 2 to 3 hours because I was told when I first started the health and fitness world, you should eat every 2 to 3 hours and you should eat small meals and frequently. And I was hungry all the time and super,
Mhm.
super miserable. But when you come to that place where you really are starting to do everything out of love and you realize that I actually have conditioned my body for these particular cravings or for these particular habits. And if I identify them, if I become aware of them, then I can start to change them and understand that it'll just take a moment and
Yeah.
I can decondition those habits. And so I love that you say that. And I hope anyone listening is really resonating with this, because transformation only comes from a place of love. I have never seen success come from a place of hate or a place of self disappointment or self loathing or self deprecation. that actually makes us quit right away. It's so hard. How can you keep showing up for someone? I know, Eric, we spoke
Yeah.
offline before we started recording and you talked about your awesome partner, but how could you show up for her if she's not nice to you, if she's unkind to you, if she's constantly putting you down? You would never show up for her. And so when we're putting ourselves down through our transformation because we think that's motivating, we're so angry at ourselves, then that's where I believe we stop. And so there's this sort of style of thinking. It's called dialectical thinking, where
Yeah.
we can be in a certain state. So I can be feeling unhealthy right now. I could be feeling tired. I could be feeling that I need to change my health. And I'm also okay with loving myself at the same time. It doesn't have to be one or the other, that I want to change my health and I hate myself. No, but what if I love myself and I want to change my health? And I start to combine those two, because oftentimes it's black or white. We're so hard on ourselves. We have such high expectations of ourselves, but oftentimes that's the reason that we stop. But if we really pour into self-love, we become unstoppable. And this is not just around health and fitness. I'm sure you've seen this in business. I'm sure you've seen this in different areas of your life. The more you have that love that pours in, the more desire and the stronger your why becomes. You truly become unstoppable.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's so much of it is just like being able to actually listen to your body.
Mm.
Your body is sending these hormones, these signals, and it's trying to tell you things. And if you're in pain, or or you're having fatigue, or any other type of those problems, it's your body's trying to tell you something. The problem is, like, people that have an unhealthy lifestyle, they have 10 signals coming in at once. It's as though there's 10 phones ringing and they don't even know which one to answer, and they're just like, and they kind of block it all out. And then but that's kind of where I feel like it you know my weight loss, or my health journey, started with weight loss. Once I got down to about the weight I wanted, it was nice. I could then focus on flexibility. I could focus more on, like, my breathing. I could focus on better sleep habits. I could focus on gut health, and there's just or foot health, and there's just so many aspects to health. I mean, you're never going to be like perfect. There's always going to be something to work on, and I think that that's awesome, just to have like a thing I can always be progressing towards, always be learning, is just such a great thing. And kind of getting back into what you said about conditioning, something that was actually a cool little trick that I did to help me was, like, I put my bathroom scale right in front of my refrigerator for like months, and I even put like a sign on my refrigerator door that said, "Are you hungry or are you just bored?" So, I was just eating out of a habit, not necessarily because I was actually hungry. But now that I'm actually in tune with my body, I can listen to what signals it's saying. So whenever my body says, "Hey, I'm hungry," I can be like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm actually hungry. I should do something about this." Or, if it's tired, I can be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, I'll actually listen to you and do what you say." But man, it's hard to do that whenever you got 10 phones ringing at once. You don't know which one to answer. And now I just, whenever I hear that phone ringing, now I can actually answer it, and I can answer it calmly in a loving way, like you said, and then I can, move forward.
I love that. I love that. It just reminds me of this thing that happened to me a couple nights ago. And by the way, this program that I have, Make Peace with Food, is so, it's so dear to my heart, because this is something that many people struggle with. Not just people who are overweight or struggling with dieting in general, but even actually people who have been in the health and fitness realm for many, many years. And that certainly was my case, was especially as I started to get into a lot of the education around nutrition. Things became good, things became bad, things became, hard must rules. And all of a sudden I also found myself in this place where I started to emotionally invest in the foods that I ate, or that I would make for my kids, etc. So I remember one of the things that I'd oftentimes start experiencing was out of control eating. And so if I was, removing carbs, because carbs are the devil and they're so bad for you, and they lead to all the metabolic diseases and blah, blah, blah. We're not meant to eat carbs, and farming, and blah, 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 blah. And you go down all of these scientific studies and evidence why carbs are so bad. And so that must be true. Those are my rules. And so if ever I found myself having carbs because I was, human and it was a birthday and I wanted to have a piece of cake or I felt like having a dessert, I felt incredible shame, guilt, and sense of failure around having broken that rule that I believed in, that I somehow subconsciously absorbed into my being. And so I would find myself then out of control eating that thing that I said that I don't eat. And so the way that I came out of this, Eric, was really just giving myself that delayed permission to have it. So what
Mhm.
happens when we are in this restrictive place, we create a sense of scarcity around food. Our body and our mind starts to think that we are in starvation mode. In fact, it starts to act that way. And that's why we have these binge eating episodes. It's
Mhm.
exactly what happens when, like we said earlier, if I was out in the desert at one point for days, and the moment I saw a buffet, I would eat out of control. In fact, my body would bypass hunger signals, it would bypass feelings of fullness, it would try to get as many nutrients in as possible because I was in a scarcity. And so we start to experience that when we over diet or when we over restrict and we start having these rules as being good or bad. And so to come out of that, we have to step into the abundance where food is available. Actually, I can have as many carbs as I want. I sure can. If I wanted to eat that whole thing of french fries or donuts, go for it. It's not going to make me feel great, but it's available to me. And so by doing that, it brings us to a space where food is emotionally neutral. And so a few nights ago, I had a long day. I was up at 4:30. It was just I walked the dogs. There was a lot going on. And then as I was going to bed, this was around maybe 9 p.m., I started craving some food. I'm like, "Oh." And I started imagining this bowl of granola and this bowl of oats and putting berries in there and bananas and just then I started thinking about how much energy that is. And it wasn't about the calories, it was the energy like we spoke about earlier. Well, I'm about to
Mhm.
go to bed and then I'm going to give my body all of this energy, which it doesn't need right now because it's actually trying to wind down. How about this? Tomorrow morning, if you wake
Mhm.
up and you're still hungry and you're still craving it, you can have two bowls if you want. And just bringing my mindset into that abundance. And as you know, I do intermittent fasting. I don't plan it
Mhm.
or anything, but it's just I have periods during the day and during times of days where I eat, and then other times where I actually just want to be a little bit more free from food and then really work on healing the body. And so that was the permission I gave for myself. And when I woke up the next day, that was it. Like I didn't even think about granola or oats, right? And so just to come back to that habitualness of how and why we do certain things, it's just conditioning. It's just conditioning the body. And sometimes when we give in, it comes from a place of scarcity because I better have this now because of my diet starts tomorrow. I better have this now because I won't have access to it. Someone else in the house is going to eat it. But giving ourselves that permission and stepping into the abundance starts to release that restriction and that sort of I want to say ownership and control that food has over us in general.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback on that, just how much wording matters as to our mindset towards food. So, rather than saying like eating or feeding, you can say I'm fueling my body or I'm nourishing my body, and then you can look at you look at that hamburger and be like, does this nourish my body? Is this actually fuel? Yeah, it might fill me up, but that's not going to fuel me, so that's yeah, just a kind of a different take on it that can really, maybe help people just look at food in a different way.
I love that. I love that. So what does your typical day look like then around your self-care?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. One of the really cool things is so for the longest time I've been lifelong insomniac. Couldn't hardly fall asleep before 3 or 4 a.m. Had a lot of difficulty just going to like 9 to 5 work. In fact, it's why I got into business by myself with real estate, is because I just couldn't wake up in the morning. And so something that I started doing 2 years ago that really helped me out was I stopped using alarm clock altogether. And so I just, I have now gotten my circadian rhythm to just kind of, fall into place where I am going to bed around midnight, usually waking up around 8 in the morning. But yeah, I would say I, I I don't know if you've ever read the book Miracle Morning by Hal
Oh,
Elrod, but yeah, I would say I base a lot of my life off of his strategies. And so, like, I'll first thing when I wake up, I'll do affirmations or meditation. I'll journal, and a lot of times I'll do like 15 minutes of cardio in the morning, kind of get the blood going. A little later in the evening, I might do like some deep stretches. And yeah, I would say as far as food goes, it's I probably eat some protein bars like in the morning, and maybe a salad in the afternoon. And I try and keep it really light, that way, like, it's not drawing a bunch of energy to digest. Like, I can actually just eat a protein bar and then feel fine. But man, if I eat a big pasta salad, I want to take a nap. And so I try and keep it pretty light and easy through most of the day. And then yeah, in the afternoon or early evening, I'll eat like some brown rice or brown rice noodles with some chicken, or textured vegetable protein. And Yeah, something I did that really has helped me is I quit drinking alcohol about 3 months ago. So that's been really beneficial for me.
wow.
Yay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Quit caffeine for the most part. I just kind of, caffeine's an interesting drug that not a lot of people really know how it works.
Mhm.
But it's, because it basically blocks the A1 receptor, AD1 receptors, I think. And so it blocks your system from removing the waste product, where ATP breaks down into ADP in the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. And so you have all this waste product, ADP, and whenever it gets removed from your system, that's what causes you to get tired. And if you keep blocking this receptor from removing this waste product, it's just going to kind of build up and build up in your system.
Mm.
And so caffeine doesn't necessarily give you energy, it just blocks you from feeling tired. And I
Mm.
think that's something that people need to understand about that type of drug, is it has a ceiling on what it can actually do for you. And then you get to a point where you're just like constantly taking in caffeine to not feel tired,
Mm.
as opposed to actually just, again, fueling and nourishing your body to where you can actually have real energy. And again, I've got my life set up to where it's kind of funny if I end up sleeping until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. I just say thank you, body, for doing that, because apparently I needed that. And so yeah, that's basically kind of my health regimen. Is I don't overthink it. I just like listen to my body and just kind of do what I feel it says I need. And it's so funny, like I work out maybe 15 minutes a day, and not even the most intense workouts either. And I'm in the best shape of my life.
Yes.
Because something that I also learned within this transformation period is that, working out in any which way, you're actually damaging your body. And what you really should be focusing on after you do that is the recovery. The recovery is just as important as any of the workouts. And so whenever I started focusing on, am I giving myself enough time to recover, enough sleep to recover, am I putting the right nutrients in my body for my body to recover, whenever I started kind of thinking about it like that, I started seeing so much more, faster, better results, more sustainable, long lasting results for hardly trying at all. If people saw how good a shape I was in for how little I try, they'd be fucking astounded. Sorry if I can.
No, you're good. You're good. We can say that F word. We just can't say the other F word, which is
Okay,
the
perfect.
FAT word. We don't say
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I love this so much. And again, it's just everything that you're saying. I just feel the energy. I feel the self-love, and it's so incredibly inspiring. And I really just love your message around just listening to your body with all the things. And so interesting that as we age, I don't know your age, I didn't ask you, but I'm 42, Eric, and as I age, I just so much in the discovery of less is more. And, you know,
Mhm.
I come from a CrossFit background, so that I was doing that for many, many, many years. And where it was more is more and more and more, and make sure you're vomiting on the floor when you're done. And you really feel the amount of inflammation that was in your body at all times. And I agree. I'm in the best shape of my life, even though I'm training less intense than I did when I owned the CrossFit gyms. And so, just massive aha moments. And I hope again for anyone listening that it actually is more simple than we think, and it really does start with all these small habits. And diet is not just what we're eating. Diet is our breath. Diet is drinking water and making sure we're hydrated. And diet is the conversations that we're sitting down in, and the like-minded people that we get to share our thoughts with. And so once we start to realize that diet is everything that enters my body, so I want to make sure that I'm guarding my energy at all times. I'm not fearful. I'm not in constant stress and high cortisol levels and fight or flight response and constantly feeling shamed and not enough. And I really start to focus on these things and start to weed them out as part of my diet, then everything starts to change. And it really, really comes and stems from a place of self love ultimately. So, Eric, this has been an amazing conversation. I have a feeling we're going to be connecting a lot more and more.
Yeah.
And so, is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience before we conclude today?
Um, yeah, I would say I just kind of continue off with what you were just saying. I want to say like environment is huge. The people that you surround yourself with are going to have such a massive impact on whether you achieve the type of lifestyle you want or not. So yeah, if you're the average of the five people you spend the most time with, you know, just kind of see like if they're if they're having the same habits that you want. And yeah, I would say I it's been such a pleasure talking to you and spreading this message, so thank you.
Oh,
Yay.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, where can people go to reach out to you if they're wanting to learn more?
Yeah, I would say you can go to my website, Eric, Erik, Cain, CAIN.com, if you want to know more about my writing, copywriting, email campaign crusader. And if you want to follow, like my art and, travels and that type of thing, follow me on Instagram. And that's Eric, Erik, dot Cain, CAIN.
Love it. Thank you so much today for this time, this beautiful, beautiful conversation, Eric. Can't wait
Yeah.
to do it again.
Okay, thank you.